So I said about how to work with this Flask authentication. So this is what we have seen in Flask authentication. So authentication is as a process of identifying the user, whether given user is valid or invalid. If the user details are valid, you are trying to log in, right? So for that, you are trying to use all this. So this is what we have seen in the last class. So after this, so let me tell you about so how to work with so developing an APIs by using so developing an API by using what here fast API. So fast API is there. So what is a fast API here is okay. So it is a web application framework. It is also a framework like Django. So it is also a framework like Django. Okay, Django Flask. So at the same time, you have a fast API. Okay. So you have a Django Flask, and at the same time, you have what? Faster API. So what is the use of this faster API? So this is used for building APIs. So that is API is nothing but application programming interface. So here, what is API is? So what is API? So API is nothing but so API is nothing but it's nothing but application. So application programming interface. Application programming interface here. Okay. So by using this APIs, one application communicate with what? Another application. Using API, one application communicate with another application. Suppose I want a mobile application should communicate with web application. Okay, I want mobile application want to communicate with what? Web application. So generally, whenever you talk about web application always generate output in the form of HTML. So HTML is understood by only HTML is understood by only what? Browser. But mobile application cannot understand what? HTML, right? Mobile application cannot understand HTML. Suppose there is a desktop application. Hmm. There is a desktop application and desktop application want to communicate with what? Web application. But web application always generate output in what? HTML. But HTML is understood by only browser, but cannot understand by any other application. Okay. Suppose there is Java application want to communicate with your web application. How Java application can use the services of your web application? It cannot use it directly. So for that, you try to build what here? API. So API is called application programming interface. So one application communicates with another application using API. Okay. Like if it is a Django, so Django provides, so Django provide what he called as DRF, that is called Django REST framework, a REST framework. Hmm. Django REST framework for developing web APIs, for developing web APIs or web services. Okay, Django, DRF, Django REST framework. So this is for developing web APIs or web services. Okay. So what is a web service? Service is nothing but operation or program. And this program will provide some services on what? Internet. Okay. Suppose you want to use, you want to use, you want to use a GPT model. You want to use which one? GPT model. So GPT is a program or it is a model. That is a program. Now I want my program want to communicate with GPT. How it communicate with the GPT? By using API. So this GPT provides some APIs and these APIs used by your program. In the same way, you develop a banking application, assume that you develop one banking application, okay, and this banking application resources want used by any other application. Your banking application resources used by any other application, then it will try to use what? APIs. For example, if we take Amazon, Flipkart, all these are there, right? So they have their payment. Payment method is like you can pay it by using Google Pay. So Google Pay is a payment gateway service. It means Google Pay is provided some APIs. Google Pay is provided some APIs. And these APIs are used by which one? Flipkart. These APIs are used by which one? Amazon, to communicate with the banking services. Okay, this is called as which API? Payment API, right? So in the same way, you are developing your own APIs. In the same way, you are developing your own APIs. Okay, right? So that is, so Django provide DRF, that is Django REST framework for developing web APIs or web services. Web APIs or web services, right? So just try to understand this. Okay. So there is another framework. There is another framework. Okay, for developing. Okay, simple and okay, reusable. Okay, simple APIs called which one here? Fast. Okay, fast API. So what is a fast API is? It is a web application framework. So what is a fast API? What is a fast API is the fast API, the fast API, okay, fast API, okay, fast API is used, okay, for developing what here? APIs. APIs using which language? Python programming language. Fast API is used for developing APIs using Python programming language. Suppose in Python, you learn, like suppose you want to communicate with the different databases. For example, you want to communicate with SQL Server, or you want to communicate with Oracle, or you want to communicate with, what is this here, MySQL. You want to communicate with these databases. How you communicate with these databases? Your Python program uses some libraries. Your Python program uses some library. So drivers are libraries. Okay, now to communicate with the MySQL database, you are using MySQL connector. What you are using MySQL connector. To communicate with the Oracle database, you are using CX underscore Oracle. To communicate with the SQL server, you are using MS SQL, PyMS SQL. Okay, now this is a library to communicate with the SQL server. Means all these libraries you are using to communicate with the various databases. But all these libraries are developed by using one or by using some rules and regulations provided by Python. And what is that rules? You call it as DB API. What is that rules? You call it as DB API. What is DB API? So this DB API are nothing but what here? Abstracts. This DB API are what here? Abstracts. And these abstracts means some rules and regulations. These are some rules and regulations. And these rules are given by whom? Python. And implemented by database people and develop different libraries. It means all these libraries will have the same functionality or different, same, but implementation will be different. Functionality will be the same, but implementation is different. And using this Python program, you are communicating with various databases by using which API? DB API. Correct or not? In the same way, in the same way, okay, in the same way, now suppose you develop one, okay, you develop one application, and this application resources want to used by different applications. There are different applications want to use the functionality of your application. Okay, different applications want to use the functionality of your application. Suppose there is a X application. Okay, assume that there is a Y application. Okay, assume that there is a Z application. X application, Y application, and one more is Z application. So all these applications want to communicate with your application. Correct or not? So your application should provide some functionality to use it, right? All these applications want to use the services of your application. Okay, assume that this is written in Java language and this is written in what .NET language. Okay, assume that this is written in which language? Python language. Getting on. But these applications are written in different languages. Okay, but your application, how these applications communicate with your application? Okay, now these applications are talking to this application or not? Yes. But how this application talk to your application? By following some rules and regulations. By following some rules and regulations. Means the rules are followed by client as well as which one? Your application. Caller as well as what? Implement. Okay, that rules generally you call it as REST rules. Okay, what is a REST is an architecture. A REST is an architecture, and any API which is developed by using REST representational state transfer protocol, it is nothing but an architecture by using which you develop which one? APIs. Okay. So this REST work on the top of which one? HTTP, that is hypertext transfer protocol. It means the client and server, it means the what do you call it as caller and implementer both will communicate with each other by following certain rules and regulations. What is that rules is? REST. According to the REST, the client, the client or caller and implementer both communicate with each other by exchanging the data in which format? In which format? JSON format. So what REST says that, okay, you exchange the data in which format? JSON format. JSON. Okay, because it follows which rules here? REST rules. There are different types of APIs. You can develop REST web services. You can develop SOAP-based web services where the data is exchanged in which format? XML format. Where XML it takes a lot of space, but JSON is a lightweight and it doesn't take much space. I already discussed in DRF, that is Django REST framework, but we are trying to implement it using another framework called which one? Fast API, right? So this is a fast API. What you have to do is, okay, now you can see fast API is a modern high performance Python web framework specifically designed for building APIs. It means it is not used for developing web applications, but it is used for developing what? Only APIs. It is used only for what? Developing only APIs. Okay. And designed for APIs with Python 3.8 plus using standard Python type hints. Standard Python type hints. Type hints. Okay. There is a Yeah, you have to understand this. What is a API is? API is nothing but application programming interface. It means how one application communicate with another application. How one application communicate with another application. For example, you take ChatGPT is there. Okay, you take a ChatGPT here. Now here what I'll do, I'll give the prompt. Okay, this is a chatbot or it is a front end. It is a front end or not? Yes. Here I'm just typing, what is Python? I'm typing. When I type this, what is Python? Now this request is sent to backend. Backend, right? This request is sent to the backend. Now I want to develop my own web application where I want to use the services of which one? ChatGPT. I want to develop a front end and that front end should communicate with what? GPT. Then what OpenAI is define some APIs. It is provided some APIs and those APIs you'll be calling it. Those APIs you are calling it. Suppose you are developing one application where you want to implement payment service. Okay, you want to implement which service payment? Then you have to use APIs provided by Google Pay. You have to use the APIs provided by PhonePe. APIs provided by means you are including functionality. Which functionality you are including? Google Pay functionality. Which functionality are you including? PhonePe functionality. How? Those provide some libraries. Those provide APIs. By using those APIs, your application communicate with what? Google Pay services. Your application communicate with what? PhonePe services. So here you are learning how to build your own API. Suppose you build an API. You build an API to find weather forecasting. Now, whenever a person want to implement weather forecasting, just call which API? Weather forecasting API. Correct or not? Okay. So you are building independent APIs, but how you are building it? By using one framework. And what is the name of the framework here? Fast API. Okay. So Fast API is a modern high performance Python web framework specifically designed for building APIs with Python 3.8 plus using a standard Python type hints. So it is provided by using Python type hints. But what is a type hint? Python 3.3.8 plus using standard Python type hint. Okay. So Python is a dynamically typed language. Yes or no? Python is a dynamically typed language. When you're saying it is a dynamically typed language, okay, the type is based on, okay, dynamically type is based on object. Type is based on object. If you are saying a equal to 10, then a is which type? Integer type. If I'm writing a b equal to 1.5, b is which type? Float type. Okay, b is which type here? Float type. It means always the type of this variables are based on which one? Object, right? So dynamically typed means the type is not known by the compiler. The type is not known by what? Compiler. The type is known at what? Runtime. The type is not known at which time? Compile time. The type is known at which time? Runtime. Runtime. Runtime means who knows the type? PVM. That is Python Virtual Machine. Compiler doesn't know what is the type of A is. Compiler doesn't know what is the type of B is. The compiler knows. The compiler only verify the syntax because there is no declaration of, because there is no declaration of what here? Variables. There's no declaration of variables. Okay. There is no declaration of variables. Means you don't declare variable by saying integer A and integer B. That is what you do when you are working with C, C++ and what? Java. But in Python, there is no variable declarations. If I'm trying to declare any variable saying integer A, then Python gives what? Immediately it gives the syntax error. See here, invalid syntax. So there is no declaration of variable type, but the type of variable is based on what? Value or object assigned. If you are assigning integer object, the type of variable is what? Integer. If you are assigning float object, the type of variable is what? Float. If you are assigning integer object, the type of A is what? Integer. If you are assigning a float object, the type of A is what? Float. That means the type is fixed or changed. Changed. But it means the disadvantage of this dynamically typed is not type safe. The disadvantage of dynamically typed is not a type safe. Not type safe means I create a variable A or I create one variable called roll number. I want roll number should hold only integers. I want roll number should hold only integers, but it should not hold any other type of value. It should hold only integer, but it should not hold any other type of value. As a programmer, you create a roll number. You create roll number is 101. Okay, by mistakenly in between, I said roll number is 1.5. So is it your Python gives any error? No. Your Python will not give any error. It will change the type from integer to what? Float. It means your variable is type safe or not type safe? Not type safe. Okay, not type safe. Means as a developer, you have to take care of which one? Type. As a developer, you have to take care of type. Suppose I want to write a function. I want to write a function called add. Now this function should receive only the values of type integer. This function should receive only the values of type integer. I want write a function that should receive only the values of type what? Integer. Integer. Now I'm saying add 10 comma 20. What is the value of A is 10. What is the value of B is 20. It will add these two values and print. What is the value of C is 30. Okay, 30 is displayed. Okay, suppose I'm saying again add 1.5 comma 2.5. Is it allowed or not allowed? Allowed, because AB types are there or not there? Not there, because type is what here? Dynamic. Type is not fixed. Type is what? Dynamic. What is the result of this is 4.0. That is nothing but 1.5 plus 2.5, whose value is 4.0. What will happen if I say again add by sending ABC, comma XYZ? What will happen in this case? Will it do the concatenation or not? Yes. What is the concatenation ABC of ABC and XYZ? But what is my requirement? I want to add only, I want to add only integers. Now, can you restrict? Add should receive only integers. Can you restrict? Add should receive only integers. No, you cannot restrict it because will you write integer A comma integer B? No. Like the way how you are writing in C, C++ and what? Java, you cannot write it because there's no declarations. There's no declaration. You cannot write it like this. If you are writing like this, immediately it gives what? Error. Getting or not? Then what you have to do? You have to write some logic. You have to write some logic within the program. Inside the program, you have to check if is instance. Okay, A is instance of which type integer, and is instance is a method. Instance is nothing but object. Is it B is a object of, is a B is object of which type? Integer type. A and B are objects of integer type, then only you add it. Otherwise, you are saying invalid, invalid input or input only. I'll say input only which values? Integer, input only integer values. Input only integer values. What will happen now? If I run this code, now you can see 30 is done. Input only integer values. Input only integer values means my function is able to add only which type of values? Integer values. For that, you write some logic inside your function or not. Yes, you are verifying. A is which type and B is what? Which type? If A is integer type, add it. If B is integer type, add it. If any one is not integer type, you are saying input only which values? Integer values. But how end user should know? He should enter only integers. How the caller? Now I'm calling which function? Or I'm calling which function? Add a function. How the caller knows he should enter only integers? How caller should know he should enter only integers? You should provide documentation. In documentation you provide, add should receive only which values? Integers. But at the time of calling, you can define some hint. You can provide some hint. Which hint? Type hint. You can provide a type hint. So how you write a type hint? By saying A colon. A colon. A should be which type? Integer. B colon. B should be which type? Integer. What is this int here? Hint. Hint. This is called as what? Type hint. It means whenever caller is calling the function, whenever caller is calling the function, it will provide AB with the hint. A is which type and B is what? Which type? It will provide with the hint. See, it will provide with the hint. When I write add, then it will provide with the hint. This is hint. Is it showing hint or not? Yes. Here it will show the hint. A is which type? Integer. B is which type? Integer. Getting or not? Here it will show you. This is called as a hint or not? Yes. Here it will show you A is which type? Integer, and B is which type? Integer type. That you can call it as which one? Type hint. So these type hints are introduced. Type hint. So Python type hints, right? Okay, type hints are provided. Now you can see Python type hints. So type hints allow you to explicitly declare the data types of what? Variables, functions, parameters, and return values. While Python remains a dynamically typed language and does not enforce this typeset what? Runtimes. So hints serve as a documentation and enable powerful static analysis tools to catch the bugs before code is what? Executed. It is only hints here. Age is which type? Integer type. Name is which type? String type. And it is returning value of which type? String type. As a developer, you can easily understand, age is hold only which value? Integer value. This can be called as annotations. You are providing some information about this variable. Age is a variable of which type? Integer. Okay, name is a variable of which type? String. But type is not a string. It can accept any type of value. But you are just giving a hint saying that name should be of which type? String. And this return the value of which type? String. And this type hints you find since 3 point. Yes, you can see legacy syntax, str integer, str none, right? You can also use list of which type? Integers, dictionary of string, comma, what is that? Integer. All these are allowed. Okay, use any when a variable can be of any type. Any type. Suppose if this is using any type of value, then use a type int as what here? Any. So it means this will receive any type of value. So you are providing some hint saying that this is a add and this receive. This is adds here. Hint is provided or not? Yes. A is which type? Integer. B is which type? Integer. It is giving late, right? So just try to give 100 comma 200. I'm saying add. A is which type? Integer. B is which type? Integer. Right? Yes, that you can call it as which one? Type hint. So this type hints are provided by, or this type hints are provided by which one? Fast API. Fast API means you can write a code with a hint. You can write the code with what here? Hint. Hint says that okay, this variable hold this type of value, but it doesn't mean that it hold only that value. If you enter any value also, it will accept. Suppose if you are writing integer col okay, if you are writing integer colon a equal to 10, integer colon a equal to 10, you are telling that a is a variable of which type? Or A is a variable of which type? Integer. But A is integer type or integer hint? Is it A is integer type or integer is only hint? Only hint. But A is, now A is which type? Suppose type of A is which, if I am writing type of, sorry, A int. So A is a variable of which type? Integer. Now if I am writing type of A, so type of A, now A is variable of which type? Integer type. But if I'm writing A equal to 1.5, what is the type of A now? Float. Then what is the use of this int? What is the use of this int? Int is only to define the hint. You're telling the programmer, A should hold only which value? Integer. Don't store any other value. Don't store any other value. It's nothing but documentation. Self-documentation or documentation you provide it by just giving which one? Type hints, right? So that is implemented as a part of which one? Faster API. It is a web framework specifically designed for building APIs. API means application programming interface. Application programming interface. You should know this because okay, for example, see here, I tell you a simple example of API. You know Python, right? Yes. So how you define the abstracts in Python? How you define the abstracts in Python? How you define abstracts in Python? Using? How you define abstracts in Python? Using? Using what? How you define the abstracts in Python? Using? Using? Bolo yaar, how you define the abstracts in Python? Using? Using abstract classes and abstract methods. How you define the abstracts in Python? Using abstract classes and abstract methods. How you define it? Using abstract classes and abstract methods. What is abstract class? Python is over. Yes, Python is over. Everything is over. Huh? How you define the abstract classes? Abstract classes is collection of what? Abstract methods, concrete methods as well as abstract methods. Concrete method means a method with body. Concrete method is a method with body. Abstract method is a method without body. When more than one subclass having same role with a different implementation, abstract class defines set of rules and regulations. It defines some set of rules and regulations. Set of rules and regulations for developing data type. Ring or not? So how you develop an abstracts in Python? Using abstract classes and abstract methods. Abstract classes and abstract methods. Okay. Now I'm developing one API. Okay. Now assume that RBI is there. RBI means Reserve Bank of India is given one API. So what API is given? Debit card. Debit card API. What it is given? Debit card API for developing debit cards. Debit card API is given by whom? RBI for developing which one? Debit cards. For developing debit cards, I am writing ABC dot ABC. So debit card API is inherited which class? ABC class. ABC is nothing but abstract base class. Any class which is inherited from ABC class is called abstract base class. Now what RBI says that every debit card must have a method called, every debit card must have a method called which one? Withdraw. Every debit card must have a method called which one? Withdraw. So these rules are given by whom? RBI. Okay. Now by using these rules, okay, these rules are followed by whom? Or these rules are followed by whom? Banks. Now there is a bank. What is that bank? SBI. There is one bank called which one? SBI. Now SBI want to develop a debit card. SBI want to develop what? Debit card. Tell me how SBI develop debit card? Tell me how SBI develop debit card? By following the rules given by whom? RBI. By following the rules given by RBI. Yes or no? By following the rules given by RBI. Okay, now I am writing your class. Which debit card? Which debit card? SBI debit card. SBI debit card inherit. Which debit card? Debit card. Debit card what? API. Debit card API. Inherited which API? Debit card API and provide implementation of which one? Withdraw. Now this is withdraw from, this is withdraw from which bank? Or which bank? SBI, SBI bank. This is withdraw from SBI bank. So there is another one. What is that? HDFC bank. HDFC bank want to develop a debit card. Then how they develop a debit card? By following the rules given by whom? RBI. So class, what is that? SDFC debit card, SDFC debit card, SDFC debit card implements debit card API and provide implementation of which method? Withdraw. Now here I'm saying withdraw from, here I'm saying withdraw from which debit card? SDFC debit card. Withdraw from which debit card? SDFC debit card. This is withdraw from SBI. This is withdraw from SDFC. Okay. Okay. These are specifications and these are what? Implementations. Now, where you are using these debit cards? In ATM. Where you are using these debit cards? In ATM. Now, ATM communicate with what? Debit card. ATM communicate with what? Debit card by following the rules given by RBI. ATM communicate with the debit card by following the rules given by RBI. Suppose ICICI, okay, want to develop which one? ATM. But how they develop ATM? By following the rules given by whom? RBI. So the person who develop ATM, he doesn't know what? Implementations. Doesn't know what? Implementations. The person who develop ATM, he doesn't know what? Implementations. He knows only specification. He knows every debit card is having which method? Withdraw method. So now ICICI ATM is developing ATM by following the rules given by whom? RBI. RBI says that, okay, ATM should, ATM is having one method called insert. What you are inserting in ATM? Debit card. What you are inserting in ATM? Debit card. And you are calling one method here. What is the method you are calling withdraw? Because every debit card is having which method? Withdraw method. Now ATM is calling which method? Withdraw method of what? Debit card. But which debit card? Any debit card or specific debit card? Any debit card. Any debit card, that is called uh, duck typing. That is called duck typing or loosely coupled or runtime. Polymorphism, duck typing, loosely coupled or runtime. Polymorphism, right? Yes. I'm creating one card. Card one. What is a card one is? SBI debit card. SBI debit card. Okay, there is a card two. Card two, which one? SDFC debit card. Card one is SBI debit card and card two is what? SDFC debit card. Okay. Then I create one ATM, ATM one, ICICI ATM. I create ATM one, which is ICICI ATM. Now, is it this ATM one dot, ATM one dot, insert? Insert what here? Card one. Okay, ATM one dot, insert. What I'm saying here? Card two. Right? If you run this, ABC dot, what is the error here? Importer class. Run this. Okay, run this code. Now you can see withdraw from SBI Bank, HDFC debit card, HDFC Bank. Okay, now one application is communicating with another or not? Yes. It means ATM is using the services of Or ATM is using the services of which one? Debit card. Yes or no? ATM is using services of debit card. You do the payment using a bank. Payment method is what? Bank. Then there you select the bank. Which bank? Is it HDFC or SBI? Which bank? Then is it that banking services are used by your application or not? Yes. So it means bank is provided some APIs. Okay. Now this is how to develop API. This is nothing but how to develop API. Then this is developing which one? APIs. This is how to develop API. These are rules and regulations. How to develop an API, and this is developing APIs. You are developing this APIs by following the rules given by API. And who's calling this API? ATM. Means ATM is communicating with the various debit cards. ATM is communicating with the various debit cards because all these debit cards is having same methods or different methods? Same methods. Getting or not? So fast API is a framework or is a library. What it define? Set of rules and regulations for developing APIs. For developing APIs means that is given by suppose debit card API is given by RBI. Means this API is developed by RBI. In the same way, fast API is also developed by one person. Fast API also developed by one person by following the rules and regulations. By following some rules and regulations given by REST. REST is nothing but representational state transfer protocol, which will work on the top of HTTP. And this API is written in which language? Python. These abstracts are written in Python and implemented by whom? Programmer. I want to develop API. Suppose I want to develop debit card. Then I'm following the rules given by debit card API. Okay. I want to develop debit card. I follow the rules given by debit card API. Yes or no? In the same way, I want to develop one web API. Then how can I develop web API? By following the rules given by fast API. By following the rules given by fast API. By following the rules given by DRF, Django REST framework. What framework defines set of rules and regulations? Correct or not? So if you want to develop web APIs or web services. Now Django is provided DRF, and there is one more, one more framework is there. And what is the name of that framework is Fast API. What is the name of that is Fast API. You have to remember this. What is a Fast API is? Okay, it has provided some features like high performance. It is one of the fastest Python framework available with performance comparable to Node.js and Go languages. Node.js and what? Go languages. And thanks to its foundation on Sterilite for web parts and Pydantic. This is for database. Suppose if you want to communicate with the what do you call it as suppose if Flask want to communicate with which database? Any database, it is using what? SQL, Alchemy. In the same way, you are trying to use which one? Pydantic. Pydantic. This is for communicating with which one? Database. And automatic documentation means you can test this fast API by using which UI? Swagger UI. Rather than using Postman, you can use which one? Swagger UI. You can use a Swagger UI to test your API. To test your API, it is providing Swagger UI. What do you call it as user interface? Type safety and validations. That's now I said by using standard Python type hints, it provide automatic data validation and conversion and leading to fewer bugs and better editor support, right? Asynchronous support means it uses which is standard here? ASGI. Asynchronization, WSGI, and one more is what? ASGI. It's about both synchronization as well as what? Asynchronization, right? So these are the key features of using which one? Faster API. What is API? Is a program. API is nothing but a program. Suppose I develop one web application. You want to use my web application functionality in your web application. Huh? I develop one web application. My web application functionality you want to use in your web application. Then I provide some functions. I don't give complete web application, right? I'll provide some functions and you call that functions in your web application. That functions are nothing but what? APIs. Your web application want to communicate with my web application. Then my web application should provide some functionality to you, right? That functionality you are giving it in the form of which one? API. One web application communicate with another web application or one application communicate with another application by using what? APIs. Okay, right? So this is what is the meaning of it. But how they communicate it by using one common data interchange format. And what is that data interchange format is? JSON. So fast API So Fast API is developed. Fast API is developed in which language? Python programming language. Python programming language using which rules? Which rules here? REST rules. It is developed by using which rules? REST. REST stands for okay. REST stands for representational state transfer protocol. Representational state transfer protocol. That is what you mean by REST. Now, any web APIs you develop, all these web APIs follows which one? REST. All this follows which one? REST. RESTful. RESTful web services are RESTful API. What is RESTful? RESTful is representational state transfer is an architectural style for designing networked application. It allows two computers to test systems to exchange what? Information. To exchange information securely over the internet using which methods? HTTP methods. So it is an architecture or it is a standard which is followed for developing which APIs? Web APIs or web services. Okay. The web APIs or services developed using REST are called which one? RESTful what? Web services. RESTful web services are RESTful web APIs. And REST work on the top of which one? HTTP. What is HTTP stands for? Hypertext. Hypertext transfer protocol. It means it uses which methods to communicate with this API by using HTTP methods. It uses which methods to communicate with the API by using HTTP methods, right? HTTP methods. I think up to this you understood. Your API means that's it. Application programming interface. Abbreviation is easy, but you should know it. One person, for example, X person is there and Y person is there, right? So X person and Y person, they want to communicate. They want to communicate with each other, right? They should follow some, yes. Okay, that rules generally you call it as protocols. Yes or no? Huh? So X application is there and Y application is there, right? Now X application want to use some services of which one? Y. So X will send some data and Y will send some data. But how they send and receive the data? By following some rules and regulations. And that rules are given by whom? REST. Any API developed using REST framework is called RESTful. Web services are RESTful APIs. And fast API is developed by using which architecture? REST. Correct or not? And this REST work on the top of HTTP. Now suppose now X want to access some data from Y. Then it uses HTTP which method? Get method. It uses HTTP which method? Get method. Now X want to delete some data from what? Y. Then X uses which method? Delete method. It means how they are communicating it by following the rules given by what? HTTP. So get method, post method, delete method, and what is that? Put method, right? Yes. So now see here. Then what are the basic steps to develop this? Now there is one person who developed fast API. Something is there here. Who's the person is? Some name is there. Sebastian Ramers, right? So Ramers. This is a person who developed which one? Fast API. Okay, right? Now this person is developed which one? Fast API. Fast API developed by, yeah, this is a developer. So this is a person who developed this fast API and is written in which language here? Python language. It is a type of web framework. Okay. And it support Python 3.8 plus. Okay. And then, yes. Okay. Then what are the basic steps for developing this API? So what are the basic steps? So what are the basic steps to work with what here? Fast API. So generally in API development, how many people will be there? Two persons will be there. One is the person develop API and the person who uses API. Okay. So in API development, in API, in API development, in API development, there are, okay, in API development, there are two people involved. There are two people involved. So one person is called API developer. One is API developer. Or this you can call it as API implementer or API developer. The person who develop APIs and person is who call the APIs is called API caller. API developer and API caller. This both will follow the same rules. This both will follow the same rules given by whom? REST. This both will follow the same rules given by REST. So what are the REST rules here? Now these are REST rules. If you see REST rules, right? REST is an architecture. Okay, REST is an architecture, right? Okay, REST rules, REST API rules. Okay, I'll just write REST API. Now they communicate. Okay, they communicated by following some rules and regulations. Okay, now I said no representational state transfer rules into architectural constraint URL design and HTTP usage what? Standard. So it should be a stateless. It should be what here? Stateless. And it is a uniform interface. It is a uniform interface. And client server decoupling means it should be independent. It should be what? Independent, but it should not be dependent. Okay. And then you are designing rules and you have to follow these rules whenever you are defining URIs. And you have to use some standard HTTP methods when you are performing REST standard HTTP verbs to perform which operations? CRUD operations, CARD operations, create, read, update, and delete operations like get, and second one is post, third one is put, fifth one is patch, fourth one is patch, fifth one is delete. And how the data is exchanged by using only which format? JSON. How the data is exchanged between caller and implementer by using JSON format. And it uses standard status codes. That is nothing but HTTP. So that is nothing but HTTP status codes. And it should support pagination as well as what? Filtering. So all these are the rules of which one? REST. Already I said about this HTTP methods in DRF, Django REST framework. And at the same time, we have seen how to exchange the data using JSON in DRF. And even we have seen standard status codes and even pagination as well as filtering. DRF, in DRF we have seen pagination. In DRF even we have seen filtering. And authentication. Security is done by using authentication, AWT, tokenization. We have seen already in DRF. Now same you follow here also, but syntax will be different. DRF syntax is different and fast API syntax is what? Different. But otherwise API is API only, right? But language is different and syntax is now Java also you follow the same. .NET also you follow the same because all these follow the same rules and regulations. So these are language independent and these are what? Application independent. These are language independent as well as application independent, right? So first step what you have to do is you have to install. First step, what you have to do is you have to install Faster API. You have to install the Faster API. Now, where you can find this Fast API? Pip, just use pip install. Go to Visual Studio or command prompt, anywhere. Go to the command prompt and write install pip install Faster API. You have a Fast API and Fast API standard. Okay, right? Now here installed, which one is installed? First API. Okay. So first step is install this. Okay. After installing, next is second step is you have to develop endpoints. Endpoint means you have to develop API. Second step is you have to develop API. Develop API. Then third step is after developing, who's using this? Caller. So call this API. This API is from what? Other what? Applications. So only three steps out there. One is after install. You don't do this every time. So develop API and call this APIs from other applications. So then how to develop this? The first step is, this is very easy. Fast API is fast and simple. Fast API is a fast as well as simple on, right? It is not having any project structure. You have to create one folder. Create a folder. It is not having any project structure. Okay. I just developed API 1. So what is the name of this is? API 1. So just select this folder. Now in this, you create an API. So within this, I'm writing some API dot what? Py. API dot py. What I'm using API dot py. Up to this, you understood? Okay. How you communicate it? One application communicate with another. Suppose I write a Python program. Okay, this is Python program, right? And this Python program should call the functions of web application. Can I call it? No. Whenever you say web application always give the response in what? HTML. But how this desktop application communicate with the web by following certain rules and regulations. Okay. What is that rules is? REST. Close this. So first step is create fast API application. What do you create here? Fast API application. So import, like the way how you are creating a Flask application, in the same way you have to create which application? Fast API application. Okay. So import from Fast API import. What is the name of the class is? Fast API. What is the name of the class? Fast API is the name of the class. What is the name of the class? Fast API is the name of the class. So this is nothing but your application creation. Application equal to what your fast API. Now where you find this in? Fast API is the name of the library. It is the name of the library. And here I want to give some message. I want to give some information. Okay. So what is the name of this is? Some API function. I'm developing some API function. What is my function is display data. Display what is that? Data. Now Python application wants some data from your web application. Python application wants some data from your web application. Now display data. Now this display the data. Which data? Student data. Now student is having roll number. Student is having a roll number and student is having a name. Student is having roll number name and student is having a course. And what is the course is here? Python. Now I want to return the data. I just return stud. I just said what? Return stud. But what is stud is a dictionary. Okay, but whenever you say API, the data is exchanged in which format? JSON format. Now, when you say return stud, it will convert this dictionary into which type? JSON. You don't require to do it. Like in Django REST, use serialization and deserialization. Serializers. Are using serializers or not? Yes. For converting Python type to JSON, JSON to Python, model to Python to JSON. So for that you are using serialization and deserialization. But here you don't require that. You can directly, you can directly use, you can directly use return stud and define the URL at the rate app dot at the rate app dot what is the request method is this request method is what here get app dot request method is what get slash I'm writing what is the name of this URL display. Now what is app fast API application? What is get request method? It means this view function allows only which method? Get method. This view function allows only which method? Get method. This view function allows only which method? Get method, but doesn't allow any other method. Fast application and which method? Get method. So get method is used for reading or writing? Reading. Now what this method is doing? It is returning data. What data it is returning? Student data. So whenever you are using this API, you have to call this method by using which method? Get method. So that testing we'll discuss, not today, but we'll see tomorrow then. So tomorrow we'll see some complete CRUD operations using faster API, right? So today we'll stop it here and tomorrow we'll continue this, right? Thank you. Right. It is there in, array, I'm uploading in Telegram. Is there in Telegram here, not Google Classroom. Yeah, yesterday's notes already shared. No, already I shared, right? Yesterday. Not in Google Classroom. No, not for web application. It is only for APIs. Not for web application. It is only for APIs. Already I shared in my Telegram. Already I shared. Pramanand. Already I shared. Or some new students are there. For that I'm uploading in Google this thing, right? Okay, possible. I'll send it. Okay, right?